Hey guys, welcome to another video tutorial. Today I will be showing you character rigging in Blender 2.63. We'll be covering setting up of the basic rig with IKs and drivers. We'll be using the character from the previous tutorial, the character creation tutorial part 1. I did notice that I wasn't too pleased with the shaders on him when we finished up last tutorial, but this tutorial will be long enough as it is, so we will just leave that for another time. So, let's get started. Here we have the simple character we created previously. First, let's move the lamps and the camera to layer 2. To do this, just select both lamps and the camera, hit M, and move it to layer 2. We didn't delete them, they're just moved. This will help us keep the clutter down and make it easier to move around. Next, with the character selected, let's go over to the modifiers and apply the mirror and hit the cancel button on the subsurf. We don't really want it to be applied right now because that would give us too many vertices, and we don't really even want it to exist because of a future step, just how it's all ordered. So the easiest thing to do is just get rid of it. Now, we are ready to start working on the rig. First, let's move our cursor down to the center. So hit Shift and then S. Let me turn on my display keys. Okay. Now, hit Shift S and cursor to selected. So that will just move it down, or not cursor to selected, cursor to center. There. I usually have everything at the center, so it doesn't really matter, but just in case you don't, just do it that way. Okay, so now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit Shift A, come over here to armature, and click single bone. Okay, so there are two parts to the bone that we can edit. We've got the tip here, we've got the root, and I guess there's kind of the body. We don't really do much with the body, just tip and the root. Okay. Erase, erase, erase. Okay, so now let's hit Z to tab in, or to get into wireframe mode, and then hit tab to get into edit mode. So what we want to do is we want to get this tip down onto this green line here. So what we're going to do, just hit G and get it fairly close. Normally I'd say turn on snapping, but snapping doesn't seem to be working right now. So what we're going to do to get it perfectly onto that green line, we're going to come over here into the properties panel, and right here I'm going to set this to -1.5, and right here for Z set that to 0, and that will just make everything perfectly on the green line. Okay, so now let's see. So this is kind of the floor of our scene. It's the root bone. It's going to be used to move our character throughout the entire scene, or through an animation. So when you walk, you can make the legs move, but you're going to use this bone to actually make him move forward or wherever. Okay. So let's just go ahead and name this bone. I'm going to call it root, just like that. And now, let's see. Let's go ahead and duplicate it by hitting Shift D, and then I'm going to hit Z to move it along the Z axis, and just right about there. And this is going to be our hips bone. So just set the Y axis to 0, and then position this tip here right about where the belly button goes. This guy really doesn't have much to help us out here, so I'm just going to wing it. Now just hit E again and then Z to bring it right about to the bottom of the pectorals, so probably a little bit lower, or at least where the pectorals would normally be. And then right about to the base of the neck, and another time to the base of the head, and finally to the top of the head. Okay. So, now we have 3 bones. Let's go ahead and name these. There are a couple ways we can do this. Okay. is the select one by one and rename over here, or what we can do is we can come up here to the outliner, push this bar down, and expand the armature, and see if we select root here, it selects our root bone. If we select the next one, our hips bone here, it selects there. Now if we want to change the name, just hold down Control and click. So I'm just going to call this hips, and expand there. And now this bone, we can see from this outliner, is a child of our hips bone. So let's just rename this spine underscore lower. Now if we expand it one more time, we can see that this next bone is a child of this bone and of this bone. So hold down Control and rename. So spine underscore upper. Let's expand that again and call this one neck. And finally, this top one, this will be called head. Okay, so that was fairly easy. In case you're unfamiliar with working with armatures and rigs, we have 3 modes to work with: object mode, edit mode, and pose mode. Edit mode allows us to create and edit the armature, like we're doing right now. Pose mode allows us to animate the armature. And object mode we really won't be using. It's not used in the process of animating or creating the rig. So you can just ignore that for now. So we can get into pose mode by hitting Control Tab from edit mode. So, or you can also come down to this menu here. Oops, there we go. Okay, so in pose mode, if we can grab any one of these bones. So just right click, easy, easy. Now, so if we grab this hips bone, we can rotate it just like that, and all of the bones rotate. Actually, first, before we go any further, let's make it easier to work with. So come here to the armature properties, and under display, check X-ray. This will allow us to see our bones through any mesh. Okay, so now we can see the bones. Great. So we can see that these ones have everything rotate, because here we can see that hips is the parent of spine, which is the parent of spine upper, which is the parent of neck, which is the parent of head. So this one inherits the rotation of this one, which causes this one to inherit the rotation of this one, which, yeah, you get the point. So because of this hierarchy, it makes it so that any children of the bones will follow their parent. So, okay, so back into edit mode to create the rest of our rig. So let's go ahead and start working on the neck, or the arms, sorry. So just take this bone and let's duplicate it and rotate it 90 degrees. And we're going to move it to right about where the collarbone is. So if you're unfamiliar with that, it's kind of the bone that goes right there between the shoulders, or between our arms. So let's go ahead and we're going to try pretty much recreating that. So I'm actually going to erase that. Erase, erase, erase. Okay. And we're just going to position that right about like that. And then push this out a little bit and maybe up. Yep. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. I think fine and dandy enough. Okay. And now if we just go back into wireframe mode, because of how we set up our mesh, our elbow is very easy to spot. So we're just going to run a bone out to that point. So just like that. And then another one right out to the wrist. And then once more hit E to extrude and move that right to the hand, or the center of the hand. Okay, that's fantastic. Let's go ahead and name these. So we can see spine.upper. This is not going to work, so let's just rename this shoulder.L, then expand, and arm underscore upper.L, expand again, and arm underscore lower.L, once more, rename this one hand.l. You can technically rename these anything you want, just as long as you are consistent and appropriate for the left and right sides. So the .l here is signifying that it's this guy's left side. Now I know from this view it looks like it's his right side, but if we are looking from his perspective, it's actually his left, which can be a little bit confusing. It's just which side's left and right. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and work on his leg. So come down here to the hips bone, select that, hit Shift D, and let's just rotate this around 180 degrees. And I'm gonna, you're gonna want to put this root right there, right about halfway in that bone. So erase, erase, erase. So that's about half. And then just drag this tail, or this tip, all the way down to his knee. And then I'm going to go into side view mode so that we can see a little bit better, because his toes come way up. And then we just bring it down to his ankle, and then bring that out to about there, and once more for the toes. So let's go ahead and name these bones. So we got hips underscore, or hips.001. Let's go ahead and rename that leg underscore upper dot L and expand. Leg underscore lower dot L, expand again. Foot dot L, and once more toes dot L. Okay, fantastic. So we have the basis of our rig completed. With the exception of the root bone, all of these bones will be actively deforming our mesh. So before we go any further, let's go ahead and select that root bone here and go over into the bone properties and uncheck deform. You're going to want to do this because our next step, actually not the next step, but the step after that, if you have deform set up, it will screw everything up and you won't want it. Okay, so now what we're going to do, before we add any functionality, we need to mirror this over. So what we're going to do, hit A to deselect everything, and box select all of the bones on our character's left side. So just kind of, you don't want to get any of these center bones because you'll screw something up. Okay, and now hit Shift D to duplicate. We can see that it's duplicated when it's stuck to us. And now what we're going to do, we're going to hit Shift S, cursor to center, and then hit period to set the pivot center thingy to the cursor. And now what we're going to do, come over here to armature, mirror, and local X. Fantastic. Okay, so what this has done is it's taken our everything that we had selected and duplicated, and it's just mirrored it over to the right side. So now if we go ahead and select one of these bones, we can see that it's got a .L.001, which isn't so great. So let's just go ahead and we're going to fix this. We could go through and one by one select every bone, and that would be terrible, which is why Blender has a nice feature for us once we get all of these guys selected. So see how it's .L.001, but it's actually on our character's right side? What you do, hit W and hit flip name. And what that does is it chops off that .L.001 and it replaces it with a .R. Very nice. Okay, where am I? So we now have the basic rig completed. You could actually almost animate a character using this, not quite yet, but it wouldn't be very much fun. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this all attached. So, yeah. Yep. Before we go any further, let's assign the mesh to the rig. So what you do, let's go ahead and tab over to object mode, select the mesh for our character, then select our armature, hit Control P, and here you can click with automatic weights. What this does is, well, it assigns the mesh to the rig, and yeah. On a more complicated mesh, you will probably have to fix some things by using the weight painting, but since this is a very simple mesh, we can just use automatic weights, and Blender will calculate which vertices go with which bone. So now if we select our character here and come over here to modifiers, we will see that a new armature modifier has been put in. If we had put our subsurf in first, or we had left our subsurf in, this would have gotten a little bit screwed up, and that's why we got rid of it. You could technically put that back in right now, but I don't want to. Now if we come over here to object data and go down to vertex groups, we can see all of these vertex groups have been added. Now if we select our armature and hit Control Tab to get into pose mode, and we can rotate a bone, so yeah, you can see it's not perfect yet. Here, actually, if something didn't happen right, so as you can see, if we rotate our head, here, let's get back over to median point. If we rotate our head, our eyes don't follow. So to fix this, what we're going to do, we're going to select that guy, and then we're going to go up here to find head and click assign. Excuse me. Okay, so now the eyes will follow and it will look good. So our rig is all built, and you could technically make an animation with this guy, but it wouldn't be very much fun because we would have to position each bone one by one. So like if you wanted your hand to end up right about here, you'd have to go here and rotate this lower arm here and rotate this here, and that is too much work. So let's just reset everything. Okay. With a few exceptions, you can see that pretty much everything is working right. The biggest exception is right here. If we drag our hips bone around, our legs don't follow, and you can get some very painful looking stretching going on there. So to fix this, hit Tab to go into edit mode, select our two legs here, and then select our hips bone, and hit Control P, and click Keep Offset. Now, if we tab back into pose mode, we can just drag everything around. Fantastic. One more thing you'll notice. If we rotate the lower spine, the shoulders follow. If we rotate the upper spine, they do not. So, that means that the parenting here, I purposely did this, it means that the parenting here is not done right. So if you just want to reassign parenting, just select the bones that you want to reassign, and then select the bone that you want them to be assigned to. So in our case, upper spine, and hit Control P, keep offset. Now if we tab back into pose mode and we rotate our upper spine, the shoulders follow with it. Fantastic. Okay. So this is pretty much good. Yeah. One more thing. You saw when we hit Control P, there's this other one called connected. We don't want to do that. What it'll do is it'll take the roots here and stick them right there, and it will actually make them connected. And that's good for things like these joints, but not for floating joints. Not so good. So let's just erase that. Okay. So yeah. Excuse me. Okay, so now if we rotate these guys, everything rotates properly. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and fix this, or actually no. Let's go ahead and start working on the IK chains. IKs are a lot of fun. Yeah, inverse kinematics, or IKs, are really easy to set up and a lot of fun. So while you can see that moving the, right now it's all set up for FKs, which is forward kinematics, where we have to position the bones one by one. With IK, we can just select a target bone. Well, yeah. And Blender will calculate all of the angles in all of these joints to figure out how to get our bones and our rigid bodies set up so that we can get to that position. It's awesome. So, there are kind of two ways of getting an IK chain going on. First way is kind of funky and more of a temporary thing. It is to come over here and under pose options, check auto IK. And now what we can do, if we go into front view, we can just drag, and you can see that it gets some interesting results sometimes. Yeah, it's not always great. I think it'll be more obvious if we drag our foot around. So, yeah, kind of painful right there. More of a bird and not great. So, you can do that. It's better for if you want, let's uncheck that quickly. The auto IK it's interesting. It gives some strange results. It can be very helpful if you are mostly using forward kinematics and want to quickly be able to move some bones and then turn it back off. We're not going to be doing this, however. We are going to be setting up a real IK. There are a few ways to setting up IK chains, but we're going to go with the most reliable, which is to use a separate bone as the IK target. Okay. So what we're going to do, we are going to go ahead and start working on the arm here, and let's just select this guy and go over here to bone constraints. I'm going to push this back up if that's okay, and then come here under add constraints, give it inverse kinematics, and right now it's orange, and the first thing it's asking for is a target. We don't currently have a target, so let's go ahead and add one. So go into edit mode. Right now what we're going to do is we're going to check x-axis mirror, select this wrist joint, and then hit E and then Y. And then as you can see over here, it's done the exact same thing. So it's kind of cool. And now what we're going to do, we're going to Alt P, and clear parent. So this way this is a freestanding bone. Let's go ahead and rename this one to arm underscore ik.l, and then let's rename this guy over here to arm underscore ik.r. Fantastic. So these two bones, go ahead and uncheck deform. These two bones are not deform bones. These bones that were before it, and I think I already covered that actually, so let's not do anything with that. Okay, so those aren't deform bones, they're just controller bones. So now let's tab back into pose mode and come over here to the constraints, and under target click armature and armature or arm underscore ik.l. So now if we take this bone and we drag it around, we can pull our guy around, and this can give some strange results too. Superman, whee! No. This is, it's acting strangely because we haven't set up the chain length properly yet. What it's done is, when you have it set to 0, just like in cycles, if you have your sample set to 0, it will go infinitely, or as long as it possibly can. Same with this. If you have it set to 0, it will just go back, 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 go along the chains of parents. So our arm here appears, where are you? Yeah, it's down this path. And so what it's done is it's jumped here and here and here and just gone all the way back as far as it can, which is to the hips. So that's why we can drag around the hips and not the root with that IK. So So let's go ahead and fix this. To do this, just change the chain length to 2. If we change it to 1, you'll see that we can just change the angle of that one bone. And if we set it to 2, we have more of a normal arm. As you can see, it's a little bit quirky, so we're going to actually fix this. So tab into edit. Well, yeah, let's see, what part are we on? Yeah, we want to be able to control the elbow. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's cool and all, but it's kind of weird. If we want to control the elbow right now, we'd have to rotate this bone, which gets tiring very quickly and is kind of messy. Under normal circumstances, we would use the pole target from the IK, so right there, and that would just have control from this point instead of the tip. But for some reason, the pole target does not seem to be working right now. So instead, we're just going to set up another IK. So, yeah. Yep. Okay, so we tab into edit mode, select our elbow here, hit E and then Y, same way we did for our hand, hit Alt and then P and clear the parent, and then just G and then P to pull it all, or not GP, GY. Okay. Yeah. And then just pull it back pretty far, not too far so that you can't find it, but far enough that it's not really right there. Just pull it back far enough. Yeah, something like that. Okay. That far is fine. Let's go ahead and name this. We're going to name it arm underscore elbow dot L. And then this one is going to be, actually there's a better way of doing this. Just take this, hit Control C, and then select Control V, and then what we can do is W, flip name, and it'll fix everything for you. So, kind of cool. Okay. Fantastic. Now let's set up the IKs for this guy. So select our target, and then select our bone, and hit Control or Shift I, and then it'll say Add IK, and just hit to active bone. It'll get funky for a while. Just come over here to the bone constraints and set the chain length to 1. And then suddenly you see, if we drag this around, we actually have a lot of control over where our elbow is. Very cool. Whee! Doing some kind of dance. Let's do that quickly over here. So select our target bone, select our lower arm bone, hit Shift I, to active bone, and then set that to 2. Now take our target bone for the elbow, select our upper arm on the right, hit Shift I, to active bone, and set the chain length to 1. Okay, now if you get into some funky shape like this, and you want to go back, just hit Alt R, and then Alt G, and this will just set everything back to its default position. Okay, fantastic. So, yep, let's go ahead and do the same thing to the legs now. So, what we're going to do, go into side view mode here, tab into edit mode, and let's go ahead and do the knees first. So E and then Y out the front. Select that knee bone here. Come on, Blender. There we go. Hit Alt P, clear parent, and then G, Y. Now let's go ahead and actually, yeah, let's do the ankle first. So from the ankle, hit E and then Y and then drag back, and hit Alt P and clear parent. Now, I'm purposefully going to make this too close so that you guys can see what happens when it isn't good. Normally they should be about this far back, but we'll just make it not work right. Okay, let's go ahead and name these bones first. So I'm just going to call this one leg underscore IK.L, and then leg knee dot L, and then if we just select this guy, copy, and then select that guy, paste, and then let's just go ahead, copy this one, paste that one, select those two guys by holding down Shift, and then hit W, flip names. Both of those should be fixed, and they are. Okay, cool. So now let's just select this one, or tab over into pose mode first. Select this guy, or our leg IK, select our lower leg, hit Shift I, to active bone, come over here to constraints, and increase the chain length to 2. Do the same for the other side. So select, set target, and not Control I, Shift I. There we go. Set that to 2. Select this guy, that guy, Shift I, 1. Fantastic. Okay, so now we have that all set up. Now I will show you what happens when you have your target bone too close. So this is all fine and dandy, but it's still trying to point there. So if I try raising this leg, say I'm kicking a soccer ball or something, it will break. So let's just tab and bring this forward a little bit. Let's tab back into pose mode. So I'm kicking a soccer ball, and well, it still tries to point there, so yeah, you're still going to have to play with this, but it won't be as bad. It won't break as often. So yeah, just make sure these guys are far enough out that they're always going to be pointing where they need to be. Because if you have these way in, like this, and you go to bend this elbow, you can get some funky stuff. This elbow should work a little bit better. Yeah. See? So let's just select everything and reposition it. Okay. So that's good to go. Okay, let's see. Let's just make sure that deform is turned off on all of these. We technically don't have to because we've already applied the mesh to our character here, but just for cleanup purposes, let's just do that. So just uncheck deform. Now if you were to do all of the all of the bones in one step, or if you have your own armature somewhere else and then want to apply a mesh to it, so because you could technically use this armature for a bunch of different characters, and that would be just fine. But if you didn't disable that deform, why does it keep doing that to me? If you didn't disable the deform, what it would do is it would create a vertex group inside of our mesh, and that could give you some interesting results. Okay, so this is fantastic. Now, we could technically make this all work, and it would work just fine. I mean, we got full arm controls, we got full leg controls. You could do a not as good looking walk cycle, but what happens if maybe you want to swing his hips? If you rotate the hips bone, he kind of does this funky action. Let's go ahead and also disable the inherent rotation on the lower spine. And that kind of works, but not so well, because maybe we want to have the hips rotate kind of like a pendulum, so from this point instead of from this point. Let's erase. Okay. How will we do that? Well, easy. Let's just go ahead and go into edit mode and duplicate the hips and flip them. Or hip blah, blah, blah. Let's first rename it hips underscore root, and we're going to flip this bone. Technically, yes, we could just flip it like that, but we can also go to the W menu and hit switch direction. We can also hit Alt F to flip the bone. Yeah, I'm gonna pause this and get a drink of water. Okay. So let's see, where were we? Okay. So select these two bones. So I think hips and then hips root, and hit Control P. Check connected. And now if we take this guy and yeah, that works. So that will set this guy, the hips root, to the parent of the hips. So now if we go ahead and rotate this one, we can get a nice hip swing. You're going to have a lot of fun with that one. And then if you take this and rotate it, you can also rotate the hips. Looks more like he has to go to the bathroom after being on a trip for too long. Okay. Now, what happens though if maybe you want to be able to take him and actually first, before we do that, we should also turn off deform here. Now, yeah, okay, cool. Where were we? Okay, so what happens if we want to be able to rotate the hips and have his torso bend itself? Well, easy. Glad you asked. Just take this top bone here, select the hips bone here, not that one. Okay. Come on, Blender. Sometimes these bones are a little bit close together. Hey, Blender, come on now. There we go. Sometimes these bones are a little bit close to get together to get it on, or get it connected properly, but this should work. If we go and hit Control, Shift, and then C, we can actually use a child of. That just flipped out on me. Yeah, I don't think so. Don't think that's the right one. Yeah, it's definitely not the right one. Let's use copy rotation. That makes more sense. That did it backward for me. We want that one, and then that one, and then... Okay. So do hips, then the lower spine, and then hit Control-Shift-C, Control-Shift-C, and then copy rotation. Okay, fantastic. Now change the space from world space to local space, and from world space to local space again. And it didn't break. Cool. Usually what happens is, this usually just flips around and it gets really funky. Let's see if we can figure out why it did that. Or why it didn't break, actually. That looks better. Local space? Local space? Okay, it's not... It doesn't want to break. I guess I don't have to show you guys how to fix it. So let's just fix that, bam! Fantastic! Now... Yeah. Well, that kind of cuts out a bit of the tutorial. Usually what happens is this gets all twisted up, kind of like that, because the axes aren't aligned. Let's go ahead and come over here to the armature properties and check axes. Everything looks nicely aligned. I am happy with that. Well, this one's not quite aligned because it's completely backward. So let's just take this bone and hit Control R, 180. Hey. Okay. Control R. First you have to tab into edit mode. Forgot about that. And then 180. And now all of these z-axes, oh, well that's interesting. Yeah, don't do that. Maybe not. I don't know. It's working. Let's just leave it alone. Okay. Dang it. Okay, so as you can see though, all of our z-axes are back and forth, and all of our x-axes are, well, that's z-axes, are like that. So that will make it all work nicely. Let's get rid of those terrible arrows quickly. There. Haha, I win. Okay. So, actually, everything's working cool, or very nicely. So that's rotating, that is rotating, and we actually have control over this one's rotation. So if we just turn down the influence, we can get that. I have to go to the bathroom look again, and then if we turn up the influence, we can make him lean. Whee! Okay, cool. Yeah. We can just leave that alone for now, because it's working. Okay, next, let's get into hand motion. So maybe when we rotate these hips like this, we want to be able to have these hands move. Let's bring them down to more of a resting position instead of Mr. Iron Man or whatever. Iron guy? I don't know. Where he's on the rings, you know. Yeah. Olympics. Woo. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if we take this guy, tap into edit mode, and select our hips bone, and hit Control P, keep offset, and then we tab over here. We can actually, it's kind of fun, if we rotate these, the hands actually move. Ooh, fancy. And that will help us when creating a walking cycle or something. But what happens if maybe we don't want that to happen? Maybe we do actually want them to stay stationary. Maybe you've got his hands sitting on a table or on a keyboard or something, and he is fidgeting with his legs. You don't want his hands to suddenly start rotating and getting all weird on the keyboard. That would be not fun. So you want to be able to turn this function off. So just select this guy. Let's go tab back into edit mode and hit Alt-P, clear parent. And because we have X mirror on, it will just disable both sides, which is nice. And now we don't have that function anymore. Oh man. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to have some fun. Let's go ahead and select this bone. No, select this bone, and then these bone, and hit Control-Shift-C, child of, and then set inverse. When the, as we can see from here, when the influence is all the way up, we can just rotate, rotate, and that will follow perfectly. And then if we turn the influence all the way down, we can rotate, and his hand will stay on that position as best it can, unless you try ripping his hand off, in which case it'll try falling. I think most people's hand would try falling if you tried ripping it off. Yeah, I can't rip off the hand. Now let's just do that for this one. So select that. No, select hips, then that guy, and then hit Control-Shift-C, child of, set inverse. Fantastic. So now we have both of those with that guy, or with the child of. So that's kind of like parenting, but we can actually have control over it. Now, while this is all fun and games, let's make it easier to control both. Because right now, if you want to have both hands do stuff, or both hands be stationary when he moves his hips, you're going to have to go in and play around on both of these. And I think animators are lazy. I know I am when it comes to this. Let's just create a driver and a property and be able to just slide one little slider and have both things in complete control. Now, drivers are a little funky, but they allow us to control one value with another value. If you don't understand, it should make more sense, hopefully, pretty soon. So let's first go ahead and set up a property. So select this bone over here, this hand bone right there, and come over here to the bone property panel, and under custom properties, expand that and hit add. Let's go ahead and edit this, change the property name to hand swing, and hit OK. So, yeah. Okay. Let's actually, stupid Blender, there we go. Let's actually put an underscore under there. Okay, just programming stuff. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I will just let you know, I don't fully understand the whole drivers panel, so I won't be able to give you a fantastic description on it. I don't know many people who do. I mean, Jonathan Williamson might, and Andrew Price might. I don't know though. So anyway, so we got hand swing here. It keeps dying on me. Wow. Okay. And let's go ahead and hit add driver. Well, that was supposed to make some. Oh yeah, I forgot. Here, where it says F curve, change it to drivers, and now you'll see this pink line here appear, and if we hit that or click on that, it will bring up this panel, properties panel. If you don't see it, just hit N. And this is the graph editor, by the way. It's kind of fun. Okay, so let's change the type from scripted expression to averaged value. And it'll show you an error. Ignore that for now. It will go away eventually. So instead of having the transform on, so right down over here, transform channel, change it to single property. And then, yeah. Where am I? Okay. Yeah, okay. Change it to single property. So in the properties type here, we have object. Just leave it as that. It may seem a little silly because we're playing with armature settings here, but the property is actually assigned to the armature. If we set it to armature, it doesn't really work. Confused? I am too. Don't worry. It just works. So, over in the path, let's go ahead and select this armature here. So, we get this path. What do we do from here? This is where things get fun. Okay, so come over here to the hand swing property. Should be down, well, hit tab, hand swing property. Right click over this little thing, copy data path, come over here, select that path box and hit Control V and enter. I hope this works. Okay. Let's see. This was crazy. This is all crazy stuff. Okay. Why am I not seeing our property showing up? Maybe come down here. Done. Done. Hand swing. Okay. Copy data path. Paste. Enter. Okay. So now that's set to 1. That's set to 1. If we turn that down, that should be down. That is linking properly. It's just, there we go. There we go. That is what we want. So if we take this and we see this properties here, if we turn this down, you can see that the influence changes. Pretty nifty, huh? Okay. I don't know why that was breaking, but so now let's just go here, copy driver, and we want it on the other side, so let's just go ahead and paste the driver. Okay. So now if we just select this guy and move that about, and then right click on this guy, they should be the same value. How cool is that? Okay, so that was the hard part. Well, one of them. So that's cool. We're actually going to move this property. Because this property is actually controlling both hands, instead of having to select this hand here, why don't we just make it a control of this hip here? Because after all, this hip is what is controlling it. So you got the swingy swingy. Let's go ahead, come over here to bones and just hit this minus button. Come here to the hips and hit add. And let's rename it hand underscore swing. Okay, let's go ahead and copy this. Copy data path. Come over here. Then. And then, if we come down here, paste. And then, yeah. Okay. So, the reason we're doing copy paste is because this can sometimes get a little bit crazy, how long this path is. For some reason, it seems to be a lot shorter than it normally is. But yeah, I still wouldn't want to type that. So anyway, so that's working. If we come up here to update dependencies, notice also that our error message is gone. So, like I said, it'll go away. And then come down here. We still have an error message here now. Hit paste, and then update dependencies. Now, if we select this guy, and we turn down the property, and then come over here and look at this, they should be at the same value, and they should both be working. So, to test to make sure the effect is all working nicely, let's just make this shorter. Take our hips bone here, and so now if we do stuff with that, those are not so great looking. But if we move them, you notice our hands work with the hips. Ooh, fancy. Okay, cool. Now, let's see, I think we're getting pretty close to being done. So, yeah. Now his hands will be able to stay properly. Where do we want to go from here? Let's just move these hands up here. And if we rotate his hips, those follow. And let's just turn down this property here. Okay, that's not quite what I wanted. It looks like that happy person, that happy meme or whatever. Okay, yeah, so if we rotate these, you can tell that that still wouldn't work for a keyboard, because our hands, I think, are rotating. Can't tell. Did we already turn those off? No. Let's just turn off inherit rotation, and then we can just rotate these manually. Okay, fantastic. And then also notice one more thing. If we pull these up and down, notice how the foot goes under the ground. Not what we want. So let's just uncheck inherit rotation there and there, and that will keep our feet on the floor. He looks like he's hanging. Great. Okay, let's save that. Good to go. One more thing I think I want. Yeah, let's just make it so that his head, if we rotate this, also has a bit of the rotation going on, or the copying. So here we've got a copy rotation. Let's just select that guy, or this guy, then that guy, and hit Control-Shift-C, copy rotation. And maybe we set that to 0.5, and if we rotate, not his hip, there, we can see that that's working. If we set this to 1, we'll swing his hip some more. Didn't do much. Set it to local space again. I forgot. Okay. And then it kind of bends a little bit more. Now let's also do that here and then there, or other way around. There we go. And Control-Shift-C, copy rotation, local space, and one last time for his head. Control-Shift-C, and okay, so now we have complete control of how much he bends. So if we bend his head over, he's now kind of a bobblehead. But we can actually turn that down, and we can turn everything else down too. Very cool. So we've got lots of control over our guy now. I think one last thing we need to do, if we take our root bone here and move it around, absolutely nothing happens. So what we need to do is we need to parent stuff. So since this guy is the parent of our hips bone, let's just parent that to the root. So hit Control-P, keep offset, and now what we need to do is we need to take all of our IK bones, so all of our targets and controllers and knees, and then our root bone, and hit Control-P, keep offset. Now if we tab back into pose mode and move that around, everything moves with it. Okay, so I think we're pretty much done. I hope this was all useful, and that is an introduction to rigging in Blender. There are a lot more things out there, but I hope this was a good start. Thanks for watching.